right. Well, good afternoon. It's great to be with you, Sergeant Major. Thanks for joining us today at the Signal Cyber Museum. I'm Welton Chase. It's really an honor today to spend some time with you and talk a little bit about your story. Two old soldiers. Hope you get to relax a little bit and enjoy this opportunity. I would start. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what inspired you to join the Army?
Gosh, so I could talk probably all day on that. So I grew up in a very small rural town, Eastman, South Dakota. And so many folks, when I tell them that, they say, I think you're the first person I've ever met from the state of South Dakota. So growing up in a very small town on a farm, I realized that was not the life that I wanted to live. I think I needed to get out. I needed to see the world. I needed to do something different because I wasn't going to be a farmer's wife. Or at least I didn't think I could do that. So my father was drafted at Vietnam. I had a lot of aunts and uncles who also served. And I just saw something in the life that they were living that I wanted to be a part of that, and something bigger than myself. So in high school, I decided that's what I was going to do.
So let me pick up on that theme a little bit. You saw something in their lives. What was it that you saw in their lives? Because obviously that inspired you, right?
Yeah. So, I'm not trying to underpin, what the farming community does for the people of this nation, but, just going out and getting an education and having a job that was bigger than themselves, whether it's in the medical arena or my aunt was a pharmacist and uncle was a pharmacist and I had some aunts that were nurses, and I just thought, wow, the opportunities are endless. There's just so much more that I can do than just cook and grab pay bills.
Well, I think they got food more in business. In South Dakota, now talk about a little bit about South Dakota. We're in South Dakota because, folks that haven't been there, I've been to the Badlands and over to Mount Rushmore, but we're in South Dakota. Tell us a little bit about that environment they grew up.
Yeah, so I grew up on the very boring side of the state, so we call it East River and West River.
Okay.
So I was on the East River side, which was more of the prairie landscape, if you will, so where the buffaloes roam, essentially. And so, again, that's where most of the farming happened. We like to pride ourselves on the Corn Palace. Okay. So,
what is the Corn Palace?
It's a building that's made out of all of the corn in which we grow, and it just shows the abundance of that farming community and that farming area there. Now there was one in Nebraska that was burned. Say this little history that was burned down like in the early, I think. Don't even quote me on it at the time, but there were two. Now there's only one. So if anything is going to attract anybody on that side of the state, maybe it's the Corn Palace, maybe it's the buffalo, but it's also the home of Laura Ingalls Wilder, if you're familiar with the book. Yeah.
Very cool.
House on the Prairie, I think it was. So very different on that side of the state than on the west. The west is very pretty.
No, I can relate to you. My wife is from Nebraska, so I spent a lot of time in the state, and it's a beautiful country. A lot of people think it's flat. It's really not flat. It's very actual.
Yeah, corn stayed there. Right?
Cornhusker State. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm kind of interested now in the Corn Palace. Talk a little bit about coming in the Army, though. What was it like when you came in? You came in around 1992, if I recall correctly. What was the Army like back then?
It was very different. So one, it was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane.
Wow.
First time I'd ever been out of the state or, a little small town that I grew up in. So it was just a huge eye-opener for me. All the different types of cultures and people and where they all came from. It just really intrigued me to see that there was so much more than the prairie of, South Dakota as it was. So it was very exciting, but it was very scary at the same time. I never looked back because I was like, wow, look at this world out here.
Pretty big. No,
big world compared to what I grew up in.
And so you landed at, did you have Fort Jackson for basic? Okay, so how was that? And then transition over to Fort Hill?
Yeah, again, I didn't really know where I was or, what state I was really in. I just couldn't put it all or comprehend it all. It was, back then, very different than today. There was the separation, they put the females in the barracks on one side, the installation, and, the males on the other. And then at some point, we did some training together, but they don't do that way today.
Wow.
It's just very different.
It's hard to think that that's changed since you came in.
Yeah.
Which is good, I think.
Yeah. I do too. Because, we all fight together. We're one big team.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be able to work together.
That's cool. So talk a little bit about your drill sergeants. Do you remember them and what were they like?
Yeah, I think we all remember our drill sergeants because that's really what made us, that they were very formative in our upbringing. I can visually remember them. I don't remember their names, although I do remember my drill sergeant at AIT. But I don't have a funny story or anything other than I can just remember interacting with them on occasion, and they would always say, "Hey, Idaho, come over here,"
I would have called you.
And I'm like, where does this help out? Well, I don't understand what you mean. And they said, well, where are you from? And I'd say South Dakota. Well, I say the same thing. Yeah, you're from one of those states. And I said, okay. So I didn't really know, but either way, they, very respectable, very ensured that we had the discipline we needed.
Okay, so then you fast forward over to Fort Gordon. How was AIT and what was that like for you? Was it integrated training at AIT when you got here to Fort Gordon, or was it still separated?
It was still separated. It was good. I thought the training was very well put together. It was stressful because, I think we're in this type A world where we all want to do well. And so, they kept us very busy. The training was hard. I had a female drill sergeant, so I thought that was very inspirational. Was Drill Sergeant Teague. She eventually went warrant, and I followed her for a little while. But yeah, so she was probably one of my first kind of looking up to, leaders in the Army that I said, I want to be like her. And just learned a lot from her while I was there.
What was the environment that made you feel that way?
Well, I think, your leaders are the folks that you're looking up to in an environment like that have the structure and discipline that keeps everyone straight and keeps you on track. Naturally, you look up to, as a figure that you want to be like. And she carried herself in a way that was very professional, respectable. You could see how she interacted with her peers from the other drill sergeants that she worked with. Just those things that you continuously watch, want to see in a leader, how she emulated. And, you just tell yourself, I want to be like that one day too, where you kind of demand that respect too, or you have that respect among your peers, and that you have others looking up to you to like that as well.
So now, were you able to stay in contact with any of the folks at that time, or do you know where they are today?
As far as I know, they're all out at this point. They've all either retired or have gotten out of the Army. So no, I don't have any today. Every now and again, I'll run across one or two classmates, maybe in the Pentagon or something. Reminisce about our days back then when we had no idea what was
going on in the world. And so I want you to flip this now. So now you have been a drill sergeant, right?
No.
Oh, you weren't a drill sergeant?
No, I always wanted to be one.
Okay.
Never got to be.
All right. But you've definitely been a leader at all the levels. You've led at all levels, right? So you've emulated that for your soldiers. Have you ever thought about like how they look at you today? Because you are the top signal soldier in the Army, in the G6. And I probably makes you feel uncomfortable hearing that, right? But that's true. You are, right? So I know that there are folks, they're probably going to listen to this, and maybe one of them will listen to this and be very proud that they influenced you. But have you ever thought about how you're influencing the soldiers that you lead today?
To your point, that's really hard and scary to think about. You're hoping that you're doing what's expected of you as a leader and that you're not, doing something that may be taken the wrong way or, out of context in any way possible. Until you mention that, you hope that, you're making people feel like they matter and that they have a purpose. You're hoping that you're having the impact on them as a person and their development to grow in this environment that we want them to lead in. You're hoping that, you're doing all of the right things in terms of counsel, in terms of talent management, in terms of communicating early and often. You're hoping that you're having that impact, and that's part of the legacy, I suppose, because if it all comes down to the people, the mission is one thing altogether. But I think if you really take care of the people and you do all those things that make people feel like they're giving and that they have a purpose and this overall bigger part of the mission, then I think that's success. I think that's where our legacy comes from. They can remember that.
I agree with you. Yeah, and I have no doubt you're doing that at all, none at all. Just by the way you carry yourself, and you can see that reflection back for the things that you emulate, just in the way your leadership is. The humility is really coming through clear for me. So talk to us about one of your favorite stories, one of your favorite times in the Army. I'm going to ask you the best time in the Army and maybe one of the worst times in the Army. What do you learn from both of them?
It's really hard to say there's a best time.
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime when you can see the soldiers grow and learn from either the mistakes or setbacks, I think those are, great and best times in the Army. Those are the things that continue to fuel you every day, give you the energy you need to keep going and to keep, helping those soldiers see how they can grow from those mistakes. So I think those are best times. I can certainly say there's been some really great units that I've been in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've done some pretty great things mostly tailored around training environments and structured training, setting up schoolhouses or just having an environment and resources that our soldiers can better train has always been exciting for me and would consider that kind of, I guess, the best. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for me is what it is. I can't really singularly kind of put it down to one particular thing. I know that's probably not the answer you want, but it's just fun to see the soldiers grow and just learn from them.
No, that's great. I mean, I think that is true. What about one of the toughest times and then how you got through it as a unit?
Toughest times for me or toughest time?
Oh, it could be for you or the Army or a unit that you were in the Army that you guys were facing and kind of how you navigated that as a leader.
Yeah. Um, I think we've all probably experienced at some point in our careers some hard leaders to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest takeaway that I can say is to not take it personal. It's not necessarily, the type of person you are, and the way that you're treated. But maybe that's just how they operate and you just kind of have to navigate through that. It can seem hard when you're dealing with it though, and you're kind of going through it. But I'd say that, just continue to be the person you are and to, come into work and be the best that you can be and know your job really well and communicate the best that you can to get through those. And to just be patient because there are some really great folks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I think for the Army in general, there can be some tough times when you're dealing with resource constraints, particularly money or training opportunity because you're being pulled from different directions. So that can be frustrating, I think, for soldiers and units as they progress through the echelons. But I think the biggest point to take away there is that that's just the way the Army rolls.
Mm-hmm.
There's some ups and there's some downs, and sometimes we get a little more money based off of, the strategy and the NDA that comes. But, being really good at the basics sometimes and just, training with what you have is the best medicine, I think, to get through those tough times. Just be patient, camaraderie, work together, train together, be a good unit, know your job really well, and sometimes.
That's cool. That's really neat. So I know you were a squad leader, right? And a long time ago. So what were the things you learned as a squad leader that you still use today in the Pentagon? Because a lot of people haven't been in the Pentagon. And kind of maybe describe that experience. What's it like every day to get up and go into the Pentagon and boss calls?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still a little bit of a squad leader today. You never think that you still kind of lead your team, but today my squad consists mostly of colonels.
Mm-hmm.
Just never
Much
thought.
harder job.
Yeah, so it's like I got a squad of colonels. But they're all great. So one of the things that I have taken with me over the years is going back to the comment earlier about being really good, brilliant at the basics. Counseling and sitting down and coaching and providing constructive feedback. I think that's really critical and being able to listen and engage, the folks that we're speaking with about, what that feedback looks like. And you can do it in many forms. It doesn't have to be written. I know in the beginning it was like it has to be written and you have to have 10 pages of it and, all of this. But as long as you're sitting down, and this is what I've learned over the years, as long as you're sitting down and you're having these conversations one-on-one with your soldiers and you're providing that, and the feedback goes both ways, and you're providing that communication opening that up to have that communication method, you can't go wrong. You really can't. I mean, it may not always come out positive. There could be some, setbacks or whatever, but as long as you're coming back frequently and communicating is key. So I've taken that throughout my career I know we get busy, our job and life changes. We don't have time for it, but I say if it's not on the calendar, it won't happen. So I force it. I force it to happen.
So if you're talking to some young NCOs today, starting off their career, now that you've gone through just a wonderfully brilliant career, what advice would you give to them today? What would you tell them?
I tell them to write more, communicate more. Because if we hear more from what's actually going on in practical use, in reality, at echelon, that helps to inform the change of policy at the Pentagon level. So write more. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. I know there's all kinds of tools out there now with AI. Have to use it. I don't care. But, I think people are afraid to write because of how it might be, perceived or whatnot. But the feedback from both the chief and the Sergeant Major of the Army is we need to hear more. So get your voice heard, write it down, share it. There's a couple mechanisms to do that. Actually, there's a lot of mechanisms with the NCO Journal, with the Signal magazine, with the Hardy Project, with Muddy Boots. So I'd say just talk and share.
Thank you for that. That is really great advice. As part of the Signal Cyber Museum, one of the things we want to do is capture stories. Today, we get a chance to talk to you about your story, but we think that the best history is still locked up in people's minds in their attics because it's not told yet. And we see that all the time when we go around Fort Gordon and we talk to people and we go, everybody's run on Barton Field and got that red clay on their shoes. But, do you really know what General Barton was doing back then with the fourth ID and that when that division landed at Utah Beach and fought across the Rhineland, and then many of those men came back and married women across the Gus. I mean, there's so many stories like that. My favorite probably is about 10th Armored Division. And the reality, I spent a couple of times in the 101st, and everybody talks about Bastogne, but it was actually the 10th Armored Division that stopped the initial assault out of the Ardennes with their anti-tank guns, and they trained right here at Fort Gordon. So really cool stories like that that I think get missed a lot. Anything that you want to add to the conversation we had today? Any story or thoughts that you didn't ask about? Open-ended. Anything. Give you a chance to, in case there's something I didn't get to. If not, I have another follow-up question for you.
I'm not sure if there's any interesting stories that I've.
No. All right, so let me talk about. So I know you're.
On that a moment.
All right, so
come up.
I know every Jumpmaster has a Jumpmaster story, so you got to give me a jump story. Come on, and tell everybody what a Jumpmaster is. Like, how did it? Talk about being a parachutist. What was that like? And then being a Jumpmaster, what that's like, and then maybe one of your favorite stories out there.
Yeah, well, so I didn't have an opportunity to go to jump school when I came in the Army. But I can remember my dad talking about how cool it was for him to see jumpers fall from the sky when he was in Vietnam. So I was at AIT, or not AIT, I'm sorry, I was at SLC, and we had some recruiters show up, and they said, hey, you want to be airborne? If you go airborne, you can come to this unit. I didn't know anything about the unit, nor did I really care about the unit. I heard airborne, and I said, yeah, I'll go to airborne school. So I went. Now it was very scary to be a paratrooper. There's that little bit of, heights and all this other stuff. But once that first jump, it was amazing. It was adrenaline. It was just.
What was the first aircraft that you jumped from?
It was a C-130.
There you go.
But it was a mix between 141 and a C-130. And so I was able to get all 5 jumps in and graduate. But I will tell you is being a paratrooper, nothing like being a Jumpmaster. I mean, just take that times 100, because it's one thing to be just a jumper, and then there's another to be in charge of the jumpers and to understand how the operation works and to ensure that the jumpers are doing what they need to be doing, and making sure all of the safety mechanisms are in place. It's a great responsibility. Nothing to take lightly, but it just took me over the edge, and it kept me wanting to come back for more and make sure that I stay in those airborne units to continue to.
Okay, you talked about lightly, and we know every jumper has a hard landing. So what was your hard landing? Worst landing?
Worst landing was probably on tarmacs or near tree, tree limbs poking up out of the ground, and you look right next to you and you got like this tree stump that's sticking up going, good God, that could have been my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I think every landing was tough and hard. It was always I think to our point we were talking earlier, it was always feet, butt, head, you know. I've been dragged a couple times on the tarmac, you know, to get the pavement, and, you know, you get pulled a little bit and then you're, you know, just scraping and you're scraped up a little bit. But I got up from every single one. I don't really have a massive injury that I think I have from jumping. My knees are fine from all of it. So I'd say any person out there considering definitely should go to airborne school. But yeah, I'd say that was probably my worst. I've never landed in a tree. Now I did land in some water once, and I did have a water jump. That was probably the best jump I've ever had.
Yeah. How was landing in the water?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like sliced butter. I mean, when you jump out, you think you're going to do a belly flop and it's going to be that hard at impact. But when you land, it was just literally like just sliding right in like butter.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. But you could see all the nurse sharks in the water when you were up in the air. You were just like, oh God, I'm going to get in that. But I tell you, that was probably the best jump I ever had was water in Florida. That was really great. Great experience.
So you spent some time at JCSE.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It's awesome.
Can you tell a little bit about what the unit is? Because some folks may not know what JCSE is.
Yeah, so JCSE supports all of the geographic combatant commanders around the globe, and then anything else that they might need them for. So they operate in small teams. So small, medium, and large teams. So it's usually anywhere between 2 and 8 per node that might go out and support either early entry comms or, you know, long-term communications or what have you. So what we have to do there for the joint population is, one, not every service member is trained the same, nor do they have the same, you know, functional area backgrounds. So during my time there, we stood up going back to the school concept, we stood up a baseline POI instruction that baseline all the communicators as they come in, so that, you know, your Marine radiomen and your cyber airmen, they're all coming in and they're getting baseline for what they expect. We expect them to do well up to GCSE. So it's it's either 11 to 16 week POI. And then they come out a JCSE communicator. But I really enjoyed my time because never had I ever worked with joint servicemen and women in my career. So it was really interesting to learn how the Air Force coaches, teaches, and mentors and trains, you know, and what they do in the different AFSC or functional area expertise they have, how the Marines do it, the Navy, you know, and you have to be able to understand and communicate in a way that resonates with them. So, for example, you know, you might say counseling in the Army. Hey, we need to have some counseling. If you say that same term to an airman, they're going to look at you like they're being yelled at. So it's feedback. So just little nuances like that you have to kind of adjust your vernacular a little bit to be able to say, okay, we're going to have a mentorship session or whatever, but really it's counseling and that kind of thing. But great experience, because in the end of the day, our future fight is with our tribal partners and our joint servicemen and women our joint services. So if we don't understand how we all operate and how we can come together and complement each other, then we're not going to win what's in the future.
In that line, have you had an opportunity to work with any of the allies or partners nations at all? No,
not while at JCSE. You know, on a few exercises, they'll come in and you know, help support, but not while I was at JC.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears on you.
Okay.
I know you're in the 160th over Kuwait.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. For a lot of people, you know, that may not know, that unit didn't exist all that long ago and really serves an important function for Third Army in the U.S. Talk about your time there. What was it like?
It's a long time ago too. You're just in my memory. So it was back in 2004, so it was very close after everything kicked off. Back then it was a 228 Signal company. I was the first sergeant for that company. That name has recently changed and it's more dual focus. Although the mission that we had then was still that, and we were still providing doing like services for installation. So for the 160th, and it was 64. Yeah. So that's what we basically did. It doesn't sound all that gravitas or sexy or anything like that, but basic communication support.
Yeah, we know how important that node is for everything from, the air missile defense information that flows through there to the radars to, just basic command and control is a really critical node. And a lot of times, signal soldiers, they don't really understand like all of the things that are lighting those circuits and how important they are. How do you keep your soldiers motivated when you're in a unit like that? What are the things that you do to keep them motivated and focused on mission?
I think one, you gotta have discipline and structure. I know those are two words that I think any soldier might hear and think instantly that's not going to motivate you. But when you provide that purpose, motivation, direction, or that they're going to get, eventually the morale will be there because they know that they've got some predictability.
Sure.
They know that they're going to get that feedback from their leadership on where you want to take them, what their focus is, what their purpose is, how do they contribute to the overall mission. Once they feel that sense of belonging and that sense of purpose, I think that's where the morale comes from. It's not all about getting up early, going home and being able to go play basketball with your friends or, all of that all the time. But it's about the structured training, the effective communication, providing that purpose, motivation, and direction, those types of things. I think that contributes to the overall morale. So if you're consistent with that and you provide them that environment, then I think it thrives.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's almost the textbook definition of leadership, right? Influencing those to do things you want them to do by giving them purpose, motivation, and direction, right? And it's clear in your answer there. That's just like, that's what you've done your whole life, which is, all right, so let's fast forward. It's in the future now, right? We're long gone. We've crossed over that last injury called death and no longer here, but this is your message to future generations. What would you like them to know about you, your service, and serving in the Army?
What I would like them to know about me, we'll start there first. I'd say that the biggest thing that I've learned throughout my career, and I don't say that this is for everybody, but I would tell the younger me that you're good enough. No matter what, you're capable of doing anything that you want to do. So be all you can be. And then your part two.
What would you want them to know about you and your service, and maybe something that they should take along with them? And I love that first answer. You're good enough, right, to be able to.
Yeah, to be all you can be. I'd say that I've learned a lot from my time in the Army, and I'm super grateful for all of the leaders that I've worked with along the way. And I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for those leaders, those heroes that I've worked with. I'm extremely proud of the Army and everything that it stands for. I'm proud of the Signal Regiment. I couldn't be in a better regiment. I don't know how I got so lucky to sign up and to be in the regiment. Got a lot of pride, the team, the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, all of that I'm going to greatly miss when I leave the Army. So I would say that, if you don't feel like you're part of the team or you don't have the leadership that you require, you seek out a mentor. Make sure you're communicating with your mentors. And from all different flavors. And when I mean by flavors, different regiments, different backgrounds, different career fields, different types of people are definitely going to help shape you to the person that you want to be. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your time, take advantage of all the opportunities that are in front of you, do the hard jobs, be uncomfortable, because by being uncomfortable, you won't.
That's great advice. Great advice. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Signal Regiment. So the regiment's got a lot of history, going all the way back. When you think about the regiment's history, what do you think about most, and what inspires you as a leader about history?
Yeah, so I instantly go straight to the functional areas, the different MOSs that we have in the Signal Regiment today versus what we had when I came in. I've held like 3 different MOSs since I've been in the Army in over 30 years. So when I came in, I was a software programmer. Or no, I'm sorry, I was a data mainframer.
Oh, wow.
back in the
So did you
old
have punch
IBM days. We had punch card, hidden magnetic tapes that we put up. So while I was stationed in Pentagon, we were communicating through Fort Detrick, Maryland. Had no idea where that was. No one had no idea what, data I was transmitting, but I felt like an air traffic controller on this mainframe because I was controlling, where the jobs were going and how they landed and when they were delivered. Really weird. But I had a lot of fun because you felt like you would control the traffic. So my next job though we were already in some transition. My next job I held was went straight into programming. So very different from being a mainframer, inserting punch cards, reading microfiche, to now coding in ADA for this system called ARSYS, Army Communication Information System. Very old. Doesn't even exist today. And this other system called SIGFERS, if you can recall.
I remember SIGFERS.
So both of those resided in this facility in industry in the city, not on installation, Fairfax City, Virginia. So I had to just pick up on the job training on how to code in ADA programming language. So I became what started as a 74 series. Then they transitioned to the 25 series. So I became the 25 Bravo then at the time, which is again programming. Then that transitioned in about 6 years. They got rid of the programming and took it away from what we do and gave those back to contractors and civilians. And then we became what we are known semi as today, which is information systems folks and everything else in IT. So we've changed quite a bit over the years, and at least the history that I've been in, that maybe 100. I don't know how old we are. I should have answered that, but from the time that we stood up the regiment to where we are today in the last 30 years, we've changed so much. So 17 MOS is down to 7, and we are today still looking at how we can continue to bring that down even more. I would love to get to a point where, and this might be a little far as I say this, but I'd like to be more of a multi-functional, universal communicator. Because today, and where we're going, Next Gen Z2, we're going to be expected, we're going to be seen as a communicator. So we need to be ready for SATCOM, transport network, software, AI, the whole gamut, the whole breadth of anything IT, it falls into the communicator block. So we need communicators that have the aptitude and the ability to fall in on whatever is in front of them and just learn it and just apply basic theory, concepts, and framework to get after the commander's requirements.
It's interesting you talk about programming and coding because, even like where I work today, like engineers are coming back to being coders. And really things are going from hardware back to software. They kind of go back and forth all the time. So I love what you said about really having to understand the system of systems and everything in it because you don't know what you're going to get thrown at. And you don't know if you're going to have access to that expertise depending on where your unit lands. So what advice would you give communicators now coming in?
Stay curious. I mean, and, now more than ever, and, one of the chief's priorities is the network and transformation. And I think that's so exciting because for all of the years I've been, never has that ever been the case, and when a senior leader has that as one of his top priorities, that just provides so many more resources and opportunities and avenues for us to do what we need to do to be creative and innovative. So what I would tell everybody is be innovative, try, break things, try new things, show how different capabilities and different disciplines can do different things. Get your hands dirty and just play with things. And learn as much as you can about what you have in front of you, push it to its paces, all of the above. Have fun with it because that's the environment that we're in, right?
Yeah, that's neat. What a great message for young people too, because it is going to change fast and we don't know the impact of AI. And sure, that's going to be, transformational. You listen to a lot of folks. But there's some signal soldier somewhere is going to be in the midst of that, kind of going back to our beginning of our history, okay, being up on a Little Round Top or anywhere else in those multiple battlefields. Well, Sergeant Major, just been great talking with you today. Is there anything else that you want to leave as part of the legacy, thoughts or ideas? I mean, you've given us so much to talk about today, and we do appreciate the time that you've given. Just anything else top of mind, If not, you can always tell us afterwards too. We can edit onto the tape. We'd love to be able to do that. I think your perspective has just really been refreshing, and I think people are going to enjoy listening to you and really being inspired by it.
Well, I would just say that I'm extremely proud to be sitting where I'm sitting today. There has every day in the Army has been a wonderful day.
Mhm.
And there was going to be a day in which I miss it. But I am proud to be the G6 Senior Enlisted Advisor for the Army. I am proud to serve alongside Lieutenant General Ray. And I look forward to all of the initiatives and um, changes that we will continue to make over the next couple of years. I would say keep your head up. If you need anything, reach out. Love to answer any questions, but I'm proud to be where I am today.
And we're proud of you. Thank you so much.
And I can tell you this.